While the CPI report for last month went up by 0.4%. A powerful nor'easter is sweeping into the East Coast. In Albany, New York, Emily Aketa reports the strengthening storm brings heavy snow and high winds.
The first official nor'easter of this year is bulldozing its way through more than a dozen states. States of emergency declared here in New York, also in New Jersey.
There are well over 250,000 power outages and flight delays are piling up. More than 20 million people are under winter alerts. The leading edge hit the New York City area first. Closer to Boston, the storm will peak later today into Wednesday. President Biden is set to sign a new executive order on gun control today. It's aimed at expanding background checks and gun safety measures. The order will also push to raise public awareness of red flag laws already in place in 19 states, which allows a person's gun to be taken away if they're considered dangerous. Another pharmaceutical company is lowering the price of insulin. Danish drug maker Novo Nordisk announced it will lower the price of its insulin products by up to 75%. The move comes after Eli Lilly recently said it will cap the out-of-pocket costs of all of its insulin products at $35 a month. A lawsuit filed by former Dallas Cowboys star Michael Irvin against Marriott Hotels is being moved to Arizona. Irvin was removed from NFL Network's coverage of the Super Bowl after a Marriott employee in Phoenix accused him of making unwelcome sexual advances toward her. Universal Studios is moving up the release date of its highly anticipated Wicked film adaptation. Part 1 of the studio's return to the Land of Oz will now debut in theaters on November 27th of next year. It was originally slated to debut Christmas in 2024. The second part will premiere on Christmas in 2025. You're listening to the latest on NBC News Radio.
As a small business owner or decision maker looking to start a new business, are you frustrated with having to handle all the administrative business for your company? A constant turnover of bookkeepers and staff to keep the business running and out of trouble while you are trying to grow your company? You can't do all this paperwork and expand your business too. Executive Services can provide your company with chief financial officer services, including tax return preparation and advice, bookkeeping, financial statement preparation and analysis services, loan package preparation, payroll, marketing services, notary services, new business formations, business liability insurance services, and an on-call.
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 a.m., the station that leaves no listener behind.
I'm Jessica Ettinger, CNBC. Some positive inflation data this morning and a bank stock rebound. Markets poised to rally today on Wall Street. Some investors buying up bank shares this morning after yesterday's plunge. Far less fear after the government made extraordinary moves to reassure depositors following the failures of crypto lender Silvergate, Silicon Valley Bank, and Signature Bank. First Republic Bank shares up 40% today after a 60% drop in the past few trading days. Core inflation year over year dropped to 5.5%, the lowest since November of 2021. Most of the CPI, Consumer Price Index report for February, came in as expected. Now, core numbers take out volatile food and energy prices and are seen by some as a more solid inflation indicator. Jessica Ettinger, CNBC.
At the United States Postal Service, we're reinventing our network to help keep your business moving. With new shipping options to deliver better value, greater flexibility to conveniently reach your customers, more confident shipping with new informed delivery features, and new electric vehicles for a cleaner, brighter future. Fast, reliable, perfectly orchestrated. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America. Learn more at USPS.com/moving forward.
If you have ever thought about remodeling your bathroom but were worried it would take too long or cost too much, then stop worrying. Right now, Jacuzzi Bath Remodel has designed a collection of high-quality custom products and perfected the one-day remodeling experience so you can enjoy your new bathroom faster than ever before. It's a worry-free bath remodel from the most trusted brand name in the business, Jacuzzi. For a virtual or in-home appointment, call 800-826-9895. That's 800-826-9895. 800-826-9895.
Labor unions built the middle class, and the middle class built America. That's the message from Teamsters Local 1932, a strong and successful labor union based in San Bernardino that represents over 14,000 hardworking people across the Inland Empire. The Teamsters are ready to help you organize for better pay, increased benefits, and improved working conditions. Reach out to Teamsters 1932 at teamsters1932.org/organize to speak with an organizer today.
One of the best ways to build a healthier local economy is by shopping locally. Teamster Advantage is a shop local program started by Teamster Local 1932 that has brought together hundreds of locally owned businesses to provide discounts for residents who make shopping locally their priority. Everything from restaurants like Corky's to fun times at SB Raceway and much, much more. If you're not currently a Teamster and you want access to these local business discounts, contact Jennifer at 909-889-8377, extension 224. Give her a call. That number again is 909-889-8377, extension 224. Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
Labor unions built the middle class, and the middle class built America. That's the message from Teamsters Local 1932, a strong and successful labor union based in San Bernardino that represents over 14,000 hardworking people across the Inland Empire. The Teamsters are ready to help you organize for better pay, increased benefits, and improved working conditions. Reach out to Teamsters 1932 at teamsters1932.org/organize to speak with an organizer today. And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. Maybe you've heard about it. A couple of banks went belly up. Maybe you heard that there's a bank, somewhere out in that valley where there's silicone, where they were piling a bunch of venture capitalist startup companies into it, and then they pulled the rug out. Maybe you heard about it. Maybe you heard about a couple of banks collapsed. Maybe you heard about another example of rich people doing what rich people do. And what's interesting to me is I couldn't help but think all weekend of we saddle 18-year-olds with student loan debt, and we say when you were 18 you made this choice. And, when you're 45 and 50, you still got to pay for it. That was your choice. No bailouts for you, kiddo. But our billionaire venture capitalists, who again, from the beginning, started funneling their startup money into one bank. We come running with the checkbooks, don't we? We come running to bail them out because again, they create this environment that if we let one fall, the dominoes keep going. And this is another one of those amazing moments. One of those amazing moments where you go, evidently, not just apparently, banks need brakes just like trains do. And I got to wonder how long these banks were on fire before someone noticed, before they derailed. And this is, again, it doesn't matter to me whether it's banks or it's trains or whatever. This, again, is another story of the rich people telling us, trust us this time. Well, we learned our lesson. We won't do it again. No, we couldn't possibly do it again. I mean, we've learned from the last 500 times that we've screwed you over. This time will be different. And look, we're going to hear all kinds of right-wing, blathering. Oh, it's the woke crowd made them do it because they were investing in solar panels and green technology and some other things. It was the woke agenda. It was Biden. Biden's got the switch. There's a switch in the Oval Office that makes inflation go up, gas prices go up, and, of course, banks to go belly up. Yeah, that's it. Never mind the fact that, again, deregulation on steroids, where we've gone, no, we trust you smart people. We trust you smart people to do the right thing. We're going to give you rich people everything you could possibly want because, of course, you're smart. You know what to do with all of this money. You know what to do with all of this power. You're going to be benevolent. And time again, like Lucy with the football, we end up on our back staring up at the sky going, again? And somehow surprised that it's happened again. And here we are, another bank being taken over by regulators. It's got me going, why is it taking this long? Again, we go back to, and we can go back further than the 2008 collapse. This is a both sides situation. This is both Democrats and Republicans. Deregulation has been the killer of the working class. But the part that gets me, and the thing that has me most furious, is because, look, we hold those 18-year-old kids who take out student loans, we hold them accountable. You're going to lead a life of having to pay those loans back. Stay in mom's basement. But these companies, we bail out. And the story, Axios had it, that pointed out that the executives on Friday before they announced, like literally hours before they announced that they were going to be taken over by the feds, they doled out their bonuses. They doled out their bonuses. And you go, wait a second. Now look, this is for work that they did back in 2022. Now, this is 2023. We're 3 whole months into this year, 2 in a couple of weeks. That was all last year. That was the good year. We earned those bonuses. That's ours. Again, they're getting their bonuses. They're being made whole while the people who've deposited money in their banks and trusted these people to care for their resources are being left out into the cold. Now me, this is one of those moments where I'm going, lock them up. I know President Biden came out and said, he's committed to holding people accountable. We're going to hold people responsible. We're going to do all these things. We're going to strengthen oversight. Yeah. Regulation. Yeah. We hear this every time. And for me, I said, what is accountable these days? What is fully accountable? The president said we're going to hold these people fully accountable. What does that mean? Does that mean prison? Does that mean restitution? Does that mean they have to give the bonuses back? Does that mean we'll only give them a little bonus? Does this mean that we tar and feather them in town square? What does this mean? Because we never hold these people accountable, ever. In 2008, when they brought this country to its knees, how many people went to jail? I can think of one, Bernie Madoff. Well, maybe that Raj guy too. But they were obnoxious about it. What about all of the people who seem to be the same characters who are doing it again? It's remarkable to me that we never hold anybody accountable. There's never any accountability for the wealthy. But for working people, it's absolute. So think about 2008 with me, if you will. You think about all those people who lost their homes because these criminals crashed our economy. And the government had to. We were told we had to. And look, I believe we did have to, or it would have been much worse. But we went with the checkbook wide open. But did we help mom and pop? Did we help people who were losing their homes? No. And this is where working people have had enough of it. This is where working people are finally going, you know what, maybe let them fail. Okay, fine. Maybe we're all going to take it on the chin. But I want to see these people on the street corner with a tin cup. I want to see these people finally lose something. Because the wealthy never lose, because they're never playing with their own money. It's always somebody else's. They always set someone else up. Here's the thing. We always hear about moral hazard. if we give those poor working people, we give those poor people, like $300 a month, to feed their children. Those kids are going to get used to eating and they're going to get lazy. That's a moral hazard that I don't know that we as a country, I don't know that we can do that. $300 a month. But $250 billion to bail out no worries. All good. Now, again, this is another one of those stories. You go back to Clinton undoing Glass-Steagall in a bipartisan way. Remember, bipartisanship. Gotta love bipartisanship. Think whenever you hear bipartisanship, grab your wallet, working people, because you know you're about ready to get screwed, which is why I'm not a huge fan of it. The only time bipartisanship actually happens is when it benefits the wealthy. Anytime we do something in a bipartisan fashion, rich people are smiling. Poor people are getting screwed. And this is where we as working people had better come around to the idea where we better take over one of the political parties and make them our champion. Because this bipartisan stuff always seems to end up with, well, we don't need regulations on banks. We can get rid of that Glass-Steagall that brought the country to its knees during the Depression, that put a dividing line between boring banking like car loans and mortgages and the gambling stuff. No, we learned. So you got Graham Leach, Bliley, and they rammed through Gingrich and Clinton and Klan did away with the regulations. Said, go on, banking folks. The casino's open. And in 8 short years, they brought this country damn near to its knees. So we came in and said, we got to do something. And Dodd-Frank, strong regulation. Not as strong as Glass-Steagall, but we got some regulation. And what'd they do? Not more than 10 years later, 2018, bipartisanship. You had what was it, 33 Democrats and all of the Republicans in the House. You had 17 Democrats and all of the senators, Republicans in the Senate, voting for a partial repeal of Dodd-Frank because it was too onerous, it was too difficult, and you had Trump's signature on it, which led to what we have right now. This is what bipartisanship and deregulation got us. And what they were looking for at the time was an appropriate level of regulation. Not too onerous, enough that the rich people could do whatever they wanted, and it would just be on you poor people. And I go back to this. Bipartisanship is always to benefit the rich. And it always allows working people to be sold out. So am I surprised? No. Am I surprised that you got rich people who are going to a bank and over-leveraging this bank? Getting all of their startup funding at one place, all the vulture capitalists, all of them coming together and saying, we're gonna load this place up and then pull out the rug. Again, like Lucy with the football. Which is what is being told to us, is what Peter Thiel did on last Thursday. And then all the vulture capitalists came in and picked at the bones before the regulators came in and said, there's a run on the bank. We better stop this. For me, this is another one of those examples of, maybe this is why we need to be taxing the rich people a lot. Maybe this is a reason we need to have strong regulations that doesn't allow this to happen. And maybe, here's an idea, and I'm channeling Alan Greenspan. I remember Alan Greenspan testifying, back in the 90s about mortgage-backed securities. And he was saying, we can't regulate these things because they're so complicated. Only true smart people understand these things. Only the truly smart, the money wise know how to use these things. And I remember, thinking back at the time, if it's that complicated, should we have it? If it's that risky, should we allow it? And time again, these smart, rich people keep proving to us that they're dangerous. That if we allow them to their own vices, they're going to screw us over. And they're going to harm our economy. And they're going to hold us hostage. And they know that they're going to do it. And there's part of me that goes, they do this on purpose, knowing that the taxpayer is the backstop, that they can gamble all they want. The casino is wide open to them because there's no collateral. Again, they don't lose their homes. They're not living on the street corner with a tin cup and some pencils. Their children are going to go to the best schools. Their kids are going to eat tonight. It's your kids that are going to struggle. And as long as we keep playing red hat, blue hat, drag shows, as long as we keep doing this nonsense, they're going to keep robbing us blind. Because again, I go back to Rupert Murdoch, and thank you, Rupert, for the statement of the ages. It's not about red or blue, it's about green. And this is another example of that. It's both sides who've been screwing us over. Only the Republicans have been doing it in much bigger numbers. Yes, there were Democrats. Corporate Democrats, yes. But the mass of the Democrats were saying, hey, look, this is bad. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, they were out there screaming, this change is going to bite us in the you-know-what. And that's exactly what it's done. So for the president, President Biden, I want you to hold people accountable. I just want to know what that means. And I'm going to ask you, what does that mean? What would accountability, what would proper accountability be? Jail? Is that proper? Restitution, pay back the billions they owe that they don't have, put them out on the street corner, or, in town square, where they can be tarred and feathered by the people who are going to lose their jobs and their homes potentially. Want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So last night I was up late and nothing to do. Everyone else was asleep, so I decided I was going to watch a movie. And I talked about the other day this movie with Andy Griffith, the Face in the Crowd movie. 1957, fabulous movie. Walter Matthau, Lee Remick. It's an incredible movie, and if you haven't seen it, by all means. It is a movie that every political junkie should see, because what happens is they create this character that they make into an influencer, that they make into a character, and this influencer is somebody who's really powerful. He's got like a 55 share of the New York market. Like the country is following this guy because they think he's one of them. And the wealthy guys going, we're going to make you an influencer. You're going to be the guy who influences politics. You're going to be the guy that people follow. So there's a guy who's running for president, Senator Fuller in the movie, who now Lonesome Rhodes is taken under his wing, and he gets on TV and he asks him throws him a softball question. He goes, I'd wish you'd give me a real cotton-picking truth. How you feel about more and more Social Security? This is 1957 that this guy asked this Senator Fuller. And Fuller's response was, I'm glad you asked me that question there, Lonesome. I'd say that people today are obsessed. I mean, really gone for security. They want protection, coddling from cradle to grave. I say that weakens the moral fiber, he says. Why, Daniel Boone wasn't looking for unemployment insurance and old age pension. All he needed was an axe and his gun and a chance to hew out a living in the forest with his own hands. That's the spirit that built this country. We need big men, not big government. And I'm going, whoa, that could have been said yesterday. That was 1957. And now you've got Bill Cassidy, senator from Louisiana, who said today, Social Security is a Silicon Valley Bank of retirement system. It's the Silicon Valley Bank of retirement system. It's just a matter of whether we let it bleed to death or do something now. We need a credible plan. He says if politicians tell you that they don't want to fix it, they don't want to fix social, and that there's no problem, they're either too old or too rich to care. And you go, exactly what happened at this bank is exactly what they want to do to Social Security. They want to privatize it and put it into the hands of these vulture capitalists. But again, they think we're stupid, just like they did back in 1957. Let's quick go to the phones. Got Alice on one. Alice, how are you?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. We are stupid, Rick. You know, the first bank failure, we're going to go all the way back to 1819. The very first bank failure in the United States. And what it was? Speculation. Then followed that in 1837. And again, speculative lending practices. Then 1873. Then 1907. On and on. And we never learned anything.
Nope.
Not one thing.
No, and
it's crazy.
No, it's another one of those things where they've learned the lesson that we're going to continue to bail them out, and they keep making riskier and riskier decisions. And what we're told is we give them all the tax breaks and all these advantages because, hey, they're taking the risks. But what risk? Every time they take a risk and lose, we bail them out.
Exactly. The point is they're not taking a risk. Maybe to their reputation, that's about it. But when it comes down to it, your working class and your middle class people are the ones who are bailing them out. And then we're told, well, you know, can't pay for the old people and you can't pay for the poor or the children. Even though Jesus tells us to, and we're a Christian nation, by God, we can't do that.
Yeah.
They're all crazy. We never learn. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Alice. No, I mean, again, this is another one of those moments where you go, they keep telling us who they are, but we don't seem to believe them. And on this Social Security front, this is another one. This is another one of those things. Remember, State of the Union? They said, no, who us? No, just cut Social Security? No, never, not us, never. And you go, but you've got Cassidy here. You've got John Kennedy, also from Louisiana. You've got all of these, John Thune. You've got all of these Republican senators going, you know, we need to push it off for further down the road. We need to do all of these things to, in essence, cut it. But also you got the voices who are saying we need to privatize it. You know, we need to put it into the hands of the profiteers. Let the vulture capitalists get their hands on it. Now stop and think about this for a minute. You know, we didn't learn our lesson in 2008, evidently, because they're still talking about it, and they haven't been voted out of office yet. And right now, we've got this guy going, well, Social Security is the Silicon Valley Bank of retirement systems. No, it's not. We don't allow Social Security to do risky, dumb stuff. We don't gamble with people's Social Security. I know that's what you want them to do. I know that's the scheme if you hand it over to the criminals on Wall Street, because that's what they will do. But here's the problem. They keep at it. They keep at it. And we are defending the 20th century. We're defending things. You know, it's like that analogy they use for the Department of Homeland Security. They got to be right every time. We got to stop every attack. And Republicans attack, always on the offensive. And Democrats have been on the defensive for a very long time. And then this nonsense of, we got to compromise. We've got to compromise. So when they go, you know what? I love their style of compromise. We want both your legs. And Democrats go, no, we can't give you both legs. How about a foot? How about one leg? And before they got both legs. I mean, this is one of those moments where you go, at some point, don't we say no more? This is where I'm frustrated. Don't we learn the lessons? And can't we begin to rein in the abuses, regulate them, tax them, hold them accountable? I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1963. That was the day Transport Workers Union Local 260 negotiated its first contract with the Pioneer Bus Company in Houston, Texas. It came after months of fighting to build an integrated union there. The local had learned the previous year that Pioneer was organized by an independent union that maintained Jim Crow bargaining units. The drivers, dispatchers, and shop employees union maintained separate and unequal bargaining units, one for white workers and one for black workers. They also had separate seniority lists, representation, and levels of promotion. The Transport Workers Union filed a petition with the National Labor Relations Board against the drivers' union. They demanded an election. The existing union argued that collective bargaining agreements already existed, which precluded any possibility of holding a new election for representation. The TWU pushed back. They contended that the contract bar rule could not apply to discriminatory agreements that divided workers along racial lines. The TWU also argued that it would be unconstitutional for the board to uphold Jim Crow contracts. The board agreed with the TWU and threatened to decertify the drivers' union on the basis of racial discrimination. They concluded that where the bargaining representative of employees in an appropriate union executes separate contracts or even a single contract discriminating between Negro and white employees on racial lines, the board will not deem such contracts as a bar to an election. In the days before the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the board drew from Brown versus Board of Education to issue its ruling in December of 1962. The TWU won the election by a 3-1 margin and championed the end of Jim Crow at Pioneer.
Not so long ago, book burnings were considered a festive group activity by assorted right-wing zealots. Today, though, burning seems so old-fashioned and, well, crude. Yet the concept is burning hotter than ever among a gaggle of testosterone-driven Republican leaders eager to show voters that they will go to extremes to incinerate progressive ideas and people's personal liberties. Rather than lighting bonfires, though, the new fad for GOP politicians is simply to use government power to ban the offending books, thus saving the expense of matches and lighter fluid. It might not surprise you to learn that our Lone Star State's extremist political operatives are leading today's book banning frenzy. One Jonathan Mitchell, for example, is going from town to town pushing Texas Republican office holders to pass local ordinances he labels safe library patron protection. Yes, patrons, censoring what you can read is necessary to protect you. The GOP ban prohibits libraries from having books, videos, etc. that contain, quote, immoral content, which he defines as depictions of nudity, sexual behavior, mentions of masturbation, LGBTQ life, etc. It's also autocratically homophobic, making it illegal for librarians to display LGBTQ flags. He even concocts a right of right-wing vigilantes to enforce the ordinances, authorizing bounty hunters to roam the countryside suing local libraries and individual librarians. To spur this political malice, Mitchell's scheme provides a $10,000 reward for every violation of vigilante finds or fabricates. This is Jim Hightower saying, of course, repression doesn't recognize state borders, so the pernicious idea of paid library marauders is spreading across the country. To help defend your freedom, go to American Library Association, ALA.org.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So again, I keep coming back to the reality as we do this over and over again. We've seen this movie. They crash the economy. We regulate. They deregulate. They crash the economy. We regulate. They crash the they deregulate. They crash the economy. How many times do we have to do this dance? How many times do I have to see this bad repeat? How many sequels do we need? Because this could have been stopped from what I've been reading. And here to share some thoughts on, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. Maybe Dodd-Frank's, which I thought was weak to begin with. We should have just gone back to Glass-Steagall, which seemed to work for a pretty good period of time. Would the original Dodd-Franks have stopped this? That's why I've asked Renita Marcelin to come talk with us. Renita is the Advocacy and Legislative Director at Americans for Financial Reform. Their website, ourfinancialsecurity.org. Renita, thanks for taking time for us.
Hi, Rick. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. And yes, so far your assessment sounds about right to me. Probably going for the Fast and Furious franchise, trying to outpace them. So seems spot on. I think it's a mixture of a few things. One, the rolling back of a lot of the protections that Dodd-Frank has, the quote-unquote tailoring for institutions. They moved the threshold from $50 billion to $250 billion. Before they did that, Silicon Valley Bank would have been within that threshold. And then there's some really good charts going around showing that actually after the rollback of that, which was in the law of the S2155 that I'm sure you've heard over and over by today's end, that after that bill was passed, Silicon Valley Bank, partially as a result, grew to what it is now, and at this size would have been under those Dodd-Frank rules, right? So those liquidity rules, those more frequent stress testing, all would have been, the bank would have been subjected to that.
So, but here's the thing that gets me, and maybe we can spend a minute on this, because everybody on each side is trying to blame the other side. You've got the Jesse Waters of the world and the fake news over at the F channel going, this is the woke agenda. The woke-tivists did this. And then you've got, people like me going, this is what deregulation gets us. This is Trump's signature on this deregulation. This is what happens when you don't tax rich people enough. This is what happens when you have such outweighted power in the hands of these vulture capitalists. You start going, there are these polar opposites. And then we have bipartisanship, which brings us deregulation and go, well, we can work together and find the right regulations. I'm going, at some point, we working people have got to stop this. So I guess I'm struggling in this moment why this is happening again and again and again, and why we put up with it.
I think, we have a tendency, and by we, I mean probably the American government, that things we fixed it. Everything is great. Like, let's go back. Things feel great. Let's go back to, how we were living before. Like, it's like our memories are very short. And then we end up going back. And like you said, because this here is nothing new, right? Like you said, this is lessons that we learned from literally the Great Depression, that banks are subjected to run risk. And in order to do that, you have strong capital requirements and you need strong liquidity requirements as well. So if folks keep knocking on your door, you have enough money for a runtime to pay them, right? You also know that, yes, rising interest rates environment, right? This kind of goes back to the savings and loans crisis of the 1990s, right? Rising interest rates, we've been in a period of low interest rates for so long. These are things to hedge, right? So what happened there? And then also there's the supervisors, right, from the San Francisco Fed to the Board of Governors in D.C. Like what's going on there? We know Qualls, back when he was a vice chair of supervision, specifically told supervisors to have a bit of a light touch, right? And I think that's a verbatim quote. And we see what's going on here. Like, is no one looking at at the portfolios to see how much securities they have, and it's being subjected to this interest rate risk, and then your hedging strategy is not also going up? So this is all things that could have been prevented. And I want to underscore the point that we see how, and whether folks want to debate whether it's right or wrong, but we see how well our government can mobilize for institutions and large investors and VCs and such. And there's some merit to it, but if I'm not meeting my bills or if I'm going broke or like most Americans, like I get slapped with an overdraft fee, right? Like people aren't coming to bail me out. That would be nice for a plane ticket or two, but it's not happening. So we see this asymmetrical response in how the government treats these large institutions versus consumers and everyday people.
Yeah, no, this is my point at the beginning. We hold 18-year-old kids accountable for their student loans that they took out. And sorry, you knew what you were doing, and you're going to spend a lifetime paying those off. But these people, we bail them out every time. Why can't we let them fail? Why is it that they know we're not going to send them to the street corner with a tin cup and pencils? They know it. So that whole moral hazard argument they make on, we can't give those poor people $300 a month to feed their kids because, hey, they'll get used to it and they'll get lazy. Can't we make that same argument for our vulture capitalists?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. I think, we still need to grapple in like what banking is in this country. Like, is it going to be a utility or is it going to be a private enterprise, right? And there are the people out there that are like, pull your boots up by the strap, or however that saying goes. Pull your bootstraps up.
Pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yes, exactly. I tend to forget it because it's such nonsensical. But anyways, but as we see here, clearly, we could apply the same philosophy here, but we don't, and it's really unfortunate, like how we choose to define crime, how we choose to define who needs assistance, because again, it's not your everyday folks, and it's
I'm glad you brought up crime. I'm glad you brought up crime because I got to tell you, literally hours before you're saying it's going broke, you're taking bonuses. Literally hours you're distributing out bonuses. You don't have the money to pay your depositors, but you're going to put money into your own pockets. And you've got the president. And look, I like Joe Biden. I think he's doing a good job. I like a lot of the things he's done. But to say we're going to hold people fully accountable, what does fully accountable mean if those people aren't in shiny handcuffs? How come we don't give those people bracelets and perp walk them when they're doing this kind of stuff? That, to me, would be the beginning of fully accountable.
Yeah, I think, again, the issue is, and I'm still, gathering what exactly has happened. I think there's been, some reports on that exactly. But, for example, going back to Dodd-Frank, there were rules for executive compensation and limiting that and incentivizing folks not to go out and take these ridiculous risks only to end up paying themselves in the end. And those rules, right, under Dodd-Frank, it's been 13 years, if I can count properly, they have not been written as yet. Right. So there's that. And again, right, assuming all of this, and even if now there's been lots of other instances of that, how we choose to define like what is wage theft, for example, or what is something that is morally wrong is very skewed because they do it and like, well, it's in our contracts and it's a perfectly legal thing. But, to the average person, this like violates every notion of fairness that we have.
Or simply, oops, we didn't, oops. We promise not to do it again until the next time.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah.
We'll post a notice saying we won't do union busting or wage theft or crash your economy again. We'll post a notice and say we're sorry, and we won't do it until next time. I mean, this is the part that really drives me insane, Renita. It's so frustrating. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show. We're here with Renita Marcelin. She is the Advocacy and Legislative Director at Americans for Financial Reform. OurFinancialSecurity.org is their website. We'll get links out on social media how you can take a look at this. So this is the point. I guess we're going to start bailing them out. We don't know how deep this is going to go yet, and I have no idea how bad this is going to get. But it's apparent to me we're gonna do what we always do. We're gonna open up the checkbook and go, yeah, we bailed you out again this time. How do we How do we make sure that we don't do this again? And what is it that we should be doing as working people to say, no, we're not going to allow this to happen again? And I know we went through this in 2009 and 10, and I know I went through it before in the 90s, but I guess we got to go through this relearning exercise. So what reforms should we be doing?
Yeah, so, again, and I hate to sound like a broken record because so much of the reforms have been figured out, and it's just a matter of like sticking to our guns when we actually propose them. So, you know, getting back to right now, there's been a huge lobbying effort to Michael Barr, the new vice president, vice chair of supervision, has announced a holistic review of capital requirements. There has been a whole move by the banking industry to completely undo that, or to say leave capital requirements exactly where they are. Nothing, everything is fine. And then now this happens. So I think first and foremost, this is like raving like red flag that everything is not fine, and we need strong capital requirements. We need strong liquidity requirements, right? Like we need to not lose sight of the ball again. Stress testing, right? Like how often are these banks tested? What are they tested for? Are these stress tests actually stressful? And redoing that. We have the international body that sets regulations and rules for banks across the globe, known as the Basel Committee. They have announced new rules, and again, there is this effort you see to already diminish those rules or to delay their implementation. Lawmakers should be vigilant against these cries because we know what we need, right? The matter is just, do we have the political courage to do it? And I think it's time to show that we do. And then going back to this idea of deposit insurance, again, if we're going to say banking is a utility, then it's time it's regulated as such. And like, let's have that discussion in the public discourse. But right now, we're treating it as a utility, but regulating it as a private enterprise. And then we see, episodes like this, and everyone is like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. And fairly so, right? If you think that depositors should be made whole every time, and that's a fair thing, right? Like that's a fair position to take, that's fine, but it shouldn't be done on this ad hoc basis where, we're going to bail out folks because now it's unusual and exigent circumstances. This is going to be in the public discourse, and there's going to be the accompanying rules that make sure we don't have to do this every couple of years. And I think that's the issue that's really taking folks, like yourself and myself, really to task, is like, if we're going to have this implicit guarantee, then it needs to be better rules.
No, absolutely. And the other part of this is, Peter Thiel's name is being thrown around an awful lot as someone who triggered this. And I don't know what your thoughts on this is, but the reality is, you look at our banking system, and the fractional banking system, runs on banks can happen when you have panics. So this kind of one-off could seriously trigger a mass panic where we're running on all the banks, where people are going, no, I want my money now. And I don't know. I don't believe the banks have all our money for easy access and disposal, because they've lent it out and they've done other investments with it. So this is bad all the way around, to have someone like Thiel and these other vulture capitalists, pulling this shenanigans as they did.
Yeah, I think it just underscores the need for us to get these rules that we've learned so long to get them right, because now we're entering this new banking system, right, where we see this bank run that has happened, not playing out in the streets with long lines, but literally people using their phones at home, just taking out money, and it's all happening in like 48 hours while everyone is probably sitting on their couch watching The Last of Us or something. All right, like we're entering a whole new phase of banking, and if we don't get the basics right, which we've learned, right, deposit insurance, capital requirements, liquidity rules, how are we going to face the banking system of the 21st century? And I think this underscores, like, this is a really good episode to underscore that.
So last question I've got for you. Obviously, this is what you follow. What are you paying attention to this week? Because clearly we're still at the beginning of what's coming. What are you expecting? Are there more failures to come? Is this going to stave off, the recent, hey, we're going to open the checkbook. We're going to make sure that everyone's made whole so there won't be more runs. What are you expecting in the coming days?
Yeah, I'd like to see one, we've had reports this morning about a bunch of other mid-sized banks, First Republic, and I'm blanking on some of their names, but a lot of the mid-size, bank stocks were severely down, at least for the first half of the trading day. Like to see what happens, what comes out of there. The Fed's facility, the term sheet, want to see what the reporting requirements are there, and like which banks are going to be utilizing that. So I'd like to see some announcements there, and then really from there see how posture, you talk about bipartisan, but like to see how Democrats are positioning themselves coming out of this episode. And there have been those that have, in the spirit of bipartisanship, try to work with other side, and I don't think that worked out well. So let's see how they position themselves coming out of this episode, and for folks like me to be working nonstop over this next week. But yeah.
No, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes, and I appreciate you taking time. I hope you'll come back and share some more as this continues. I'm sure this isn't going to go away anytime soon. Renita, I appreciate you taking some time for us.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rick. It was a pleasure.
Good
Bye.
stuff. I look forward to talking to you again. Renita Marcelin, she is the Advocacy and Legislative Director there at Americans for Financial Reform. OurFinancialSecurity.org is the website. If you want to take a look at the work that they do. Going to take a quick break. Right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people on the talk.
The phone lines are open. Give Rick a call at 1-866-416-RICK. That's 1-866-416-7425.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1946. That was the day that United Auto Worker members won an 18.5-cent hourly raise after a 4-month strike against General Motors. After World War II, workers grew increasingly frustrated. The war years were a time of labor peace, as most unions agreed not to go out on strike in order to support the war production efforts. But during the war, as companies raked in profits, many workers felt that they were not receiving a fair share. Worse, wartime shortages saw the price of consumer goods skyrocket. A dollar simply could not stretch as far as it once had. After the war ended, the workers wanted to make up for the ground they felt they had lost during the conflict. A wave of strikes washed over the United States. Walter Reuther led the auto workers out on strike on November 21st, 1945. Their demand was a 30% raise. Reuther publicly argued that General Motors could afford to pay the raise without raising the price of their cars. He urged the company to open its books so the public could see their finances. The UAW laid out its reasoning in a report entitled Purchasing Power for Prosperity. The strike wore on for more than 100 days, but the union had done a good job making its case to the public. Finally, General Motors agreed to a raise, as well as improved benefits, such as a better recognition of seniority and promotions and protections for the union members. The contract was seen as a huge step forward for organized labor to take a seat at the table with capital. The strike and its settlement solidified Reuther as the leader of the UAW and a powerful voice for workers. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
I gotta come back to this. The reality is, we've seen this movie again and again, and we continue to go, no, you rich folks, you by all means, you're the smart ones. You know what to do with all the money, and they do hoard it for themselves, and we end up again and again and again picking up the tab and never hold anyone accountable. Let's go to the phones. Got Angie and Oshkosh on line 1. Angie, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Rick?
I am good. What's on your mind?
Oh, hold on. Let me put you on speaker. I just want to talk a little bit about accountability. This, as far as like the rich folks, I look at them like hoarders. Just like if you watch the TV show Hoarders, they hoard money. They have so much of it that they could make the world a better place, but they just can't get enough of it. And the other thing about accountability, I feel like you should start with locking them up, period. Just locking them up. But I get a little bit more harsh than that. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. I believe we should go back to hanging in the public.
Oh, wow.
Street.
I was just going to tar and feather, but you're going right there.
Well, I think that we should take the worst of the worst and hang them in public and scare the shit out of the rest of them. So it stops. There's no other way it's going to stop.
Well, as my friend Rich says, we eat just one of them. Maybe the rest of them will come in line. I'm not advocating for hanging or eating or any of that stuff, but I understand the anger. I understand the anger.
Well, I know one person in particular that we could hang in public that would make a difference to our society. And I'm sorry, I just don't think if we don't do that, it's never going to stop.
Yeah, I'm not there with you. I'm not there. But I'm all in favor of locking them up. I think prison and taking away all their stuff would be a much worse penalty. That's where I'm going to go with you.
All right, that's fair enough.
I appreciate the thoughts, though.
Yep, you have a great night.
Thank you, Angie. I appreciate it. Wow. Okay, right there. Now, look, that's not a unique perspective. I've had a bunch of people who, especially I remember in 2009 and 10 when we were working with the Home Defenders League, and we were literally blocking sheriffs from entering people's homes and throwing people out of their homes when they were being foreclosed on, and that sentiment was front and center. As the people who collapsed our economy were still going to their high society functions, and average everyday working people were losing their homes. Because of the schemes that they dreamt, that Wall Street and these rich people dreamt up. I understand the sentiment. Not going to advocate for that. How did Chris Rock put it? I don't condone it, but I understand. I do understand. But it's this kind of anger, and it's good to have this kind of anger. It's good to be ticked off. Because, again, the story that we're told time and time again is that, the rich work hard, that, when I start talking about, and I went through this last week with Biden's budget, I said, look, it's about time we have a minimum tax on rich people. It's about time we start clawing back some of the wealth that we've given away, that we working people have fought, bled, died for. And that we use it in a way to better our society, better education, better healthcare, better roads, bridges, better infrastructure, better opportunities. And yet, as Angie said, they're hoarders. Because remember what we were told from the beginning? I go back to being a kid in the late 70s as neoliberalism was expanding. If we cut taxes down to nothing, if we destroy all the regulations and we let the entrepreneurs and the smart people, we unleash them, it's going to be this utopia, and there'll be this trickle down, this amazing trickle down. It'll be like rivers of gold and honey, manna from heaven. It'll be so wonderful that they'll share. And as Angie said, they hoard. They're holding mine. More. Their insatiable appetite for more knows no limits. And as I said a minute ago, the fact that we can't get a couple hundred extra bucks into the pockets of single mothers to make sure that their kids don't go hungry, or money in the pockets of veterans so that they don't go homeless. In the wealthiest country in the history of civilization at its wealthiest moment. But we can open up the checkbook and mobilize the country and have a Zoom call with all of Congress in a blink of an eye to come up with a plan forward for rich people is just remarkable for me. When was the last time they did that for a working person? When was the last time they said, you know what, we're going to convene a Zoom call to make sure that the Smiths and the Joneses and the people of Wisconsin and Iowa and Illinois, that they're going to lose their homes. We got to stop this. When did that ever happen? Not in my lifetime. And this is where we as working people have got to put down the red hats and the blue hats and figure out how to come together and pick one side. And move that one side in this direction. Because look, bipartisanship, look what it's gotten us. Look at what bipartisanship did to us in the 90s because of Clinton and Gingrich. And look what it's done to us now. Take a look. This is what deregulation has gotten us. Because what does deregulation do? It makes the rich richer. And it makes a lot of working people dead. I want to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back.
Do you have the ability to produce more oil?
We do, but oil companies plan to keep prices high and supplies low. Plastic pollution in the ocean is doubling every 6 years. Plus,
you're going the wrong way! What? You're going the wrong way!
CO2 emissions reached record levels in 2022.
All of those wrong way stories and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
We want oil, gasoline, natural gas because it's cheaper, better, and much more powerful. It's April Fool's Day.
Actually, it's March, but we know who the fool is. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, it does sound like we got a lot of stories about going the wrong way here today.
Yes, unfortunately, we do. Emissions of carbon dioxide reached a record high in 2022, according to the International Energy Agency, with countries emitting more carbon dioxide in the last year than in any other year on record dating back to 1900. It's due to a rebound in air travel from the pandemic and countries increasing use of coal for electricity amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine, disrupting global energy supplies. Annual
You're on board KCAA's Inland Talk Express. KCAA, Loma Linda, 1050 AM.